Yeah, One Man Garage. Happy New Year, January 1st, and we're going to get back on the Quadrajet project I tore into a while back. Need to follow up and get that together and test it soon. So that's what we're doing today. It's been a long while since I tore down this Buick carburetor, one of the two Buick ones I picked up pretty cheap to build into something useful. Left it all kind of on this work area. I got three carburetors apart. I decided to build me another little stand here and work on this single one and kind of get everything looked back over. I already did some cleaning on it. It's not perfect, but just going to recheck through what I'm using, what I'm not using, and sort all that out. If I recall, I think it had 73 jets and 47 rods. It was like a 78 350 Buick application. Might even leave it that way. Might put 44 rods. I'm not sure yet. You'll see I got a new windowed high flow needle and seat. Usually the kits have these ones that the fuel can come out the sides of, whereas the old carburetors used to have to come out the top around it, and then they made these to where it can flow the most potential, that it can through the tiny little seat hole. Feeds the whole damn engine. And all the kits come with these here seals for the exhaust pump, and I know that it's not the greatest one. They come out, actual good Quadrajet guy, Cliff Ruggles, makes a ethanol resistant one that's not going to be screwed up. A lot of these will screw up pretty fast, but it's all I got right now. We just want to sort of get it together and just test it on the Le Mans or the Star Chief or something and see if it even runs with the crap. So I didn't film much, but started putting it together. Got the 44K rods in the primary with 73 jets, and we're going to keep the choke flap, unlike my nod wink race carburetor that had 74 jets and the choke plate removed. I was going to compare. These are the very lean Buick secondary metering rods, and this is about typical of what I would normally run. I like the short taper where the richness doesn't come on until the flap's fully open, but I'm going to be going with these on the left instead of these because they're just super lean. They're just meant for restricted hot airflow and a smog application. I would never run these in any application with an open element air filter, cold air, anything. It's not good, not performance. It'll be super lean unless you got something weird going on and got a real rich primary or something. So anyways, we're going to go with these. We have a new electric choke conversion pod to match like the 80 model and newer Quadrajets in place of like the hot air supplied style that's stock on the Buick and Olds and Pontiacs in those years. I took this one off, one because it's all seized up, like corrosion, it's stuck. One of the screws broke off, and this is a secondary lockout dealio. I just delete on that because when you want your 4-barrel to open, damn it, it's going to open. You know better not to floor it when it's cold. So I like to take those out because that can jam up the secondaries if something's amuck. And when you got a 4-barrel, you want to be able to access the 4-barrel. So I'm going to be putting the link rod to connect to the flap in here momentarily, but I might swap a pod off another one, off that other carburetor. This one is like a 77 Olds carburetor I got from Benny from Classic Ride Society. It kind of a troublesome carburetor. He said he tried to run it and it wouldn't idle, and I thought, oh, okay, sure, whatever, I'll build it. I went through it a while back and put nice jet metering rod combos in it and looked it over, it looked okay. And I'll be damned, I threw it on a car and I couldn't get it to idle either with the idle circuit. Now mind you, it was a California emissions Quadrajet, and maybe it's weird and super lean, and it's since been dirt daubered up. It's been sitting apart over here for quite a long time. So I'm just robbing some parts off of it at this point. Maybe we'll revisit that one later. Maybe put a different base plate on it or something. Try to change up the idle circuit or drill something out. But yeah, I want to have the flap and the lever stuff hooked up and then just sort of leave it that way. Maybe put the automatic pod on it, have it ready to go if we decide to use it. Well, I did manage to get the rod connected, so that's all smooth and nice now and don't have seized up holes on these threads. The other one was weather exposed. So I'm going to go ahead and connect the link bracket up here, and then we'll probably go ahead and put that electric choke pod on and leave this vacuum cap on. Been using a silicone spray on everything because, you know, everything gets dried out when you're doing carb cleaner. Plus, you may have had previous corrosion or something and making everything sticky. So I've been spraying the bolts, shafts, everything. Now you can see the simplicity of a choke. It needs to move super easy. And this tang right here is what this choke, or any of them for that matter, is what's gonna catch on this little doodad. You put that around it. Of course, I need to find a new gasket, even though it may not really matter. Not that we're pulling any vacuum on this. I guess technically there's vacuum pulling in here that's supposed to draw through here hot air. I need to go get a new gasket. I got them laying around. But yeah, we're going to put that electric pod on and we'll mess with that. That gasket's already out here, by the way, behind me, where that old carburetor was. So basically, you got that tang, you got like a little box here to catch it on. Now you can see when you adjust the dial, you turn that way to richen it to choke, and then go this way to be no choke. So basically, if you don't want to run the electric choke, adjust it full lean, and it'll just stay open when it's cold. And if you're going to use it, pull it to where it just closes. Start off there and snug that up and run your 12-volt source and so forth. We're going to adjust this to stay open for the moment. Anyway, not too much torque on the bolts. You can see the spring action, but it's popping open on its own behalf. So, not too bad. I got to decide if I want to modify this base plate and maybe drill that out, because usually the Pontiac carburetors have a vacuum port for power brakes in the back. Some of the later ones have the PCV in the front. That's just PCV. That's not supposed to be power brakes. Though granted, technically it'd be the same, I guess, because it's just manifold vacuum. So we'll make a decision on that. I don't want to run if I put this on a Pontiac, I don't want to have it in the front. I went ahead and put a good vacuum pull-off on. This will only slow down the secondaries, keep it from bogging. That pulls tight, and then that releases 1 second duration, fully open. That's what you want. And of course, you make sure the flap doesn't bind when it's open. So that's all good. This flap's actually controlled by a lower rod to a rear pull-off. So the actual choke pull-off is going to be there, and this is more of a secondary vacuum pull-off, so secondary only. A lot of carburetors have a dual function one up here, but the Olds and Buicks had them in back, like a lot of the later ones, with an under rod here. That's one of these. This one's bad, so I'd like to see if I had one that's good. I'm going to check these Oldsmobile ones. Oldsmobile parts on a Buick going on a Pontiac? Sure, why not? So the function of this is that flap's fully closed when you cold start with the choke turned on. So with this pulled in, let me try to show you. Basically, I don't know if you can see it. Hold on. This is where I don't have enough hands. Basically, it props open and it's limiting. Maybe I can show you this way. Just watch the choke flap. Simulating. Pretend the flap's fully closed like this. Cold start. Vacuum pulls and cracks open slightly, allows air into the engine. As soon as the initial fire up, the vacuum will pop this open just a touch, so you got to get a little bit of air in there. And then as it warms up, your choke will allow it the rest of the way open. So that's the function of that. Of course, I still got to run a vacuum line from here to here for the secondary pull off, and a vacuum port off of here to a manifold or wherever. That can come later. So in my other Quadrajet videos, you will have seen me use some of these that we used to get them out of the junkyard off of like 80s 307 or 305s. Always seemed like couldn't hurt to put one on. We just always called it a splash shield. Just sort of a primary, secondary kind of block. Some kind of splash going on from hitting wide open. I think it might have been designed to prevent an over-rich mixture at idle if you were tickling the secondaries, but the car might die or make bad emissions or something. And maybe it does nothing, but we just always put them on. If we have them, we put them on. Can't hurt. So that's that. I may not have mentioned, you want to check, there's a plastic cam under here that lifts those metering rods when you open the secondaries. You always got to inspect to make sure that that is working and your spring tension's adequate to snap the secondaries back into place. So all that looks good. These are the long bolts that go in the back. We don't put that until we put the lower plate on, so I have to decide on the modification. This Oldsmobile carburetor had a small NPT thread in the back adapting to a flare fitting for power brake. So that's not bad, but I'd still have to drill it out to that size. And note, that's the vacuum line for the secondary port, and the Buick has the same one, so that'll go to the pull-off on the side. But this little hole needs to be bigger, I think. Unless I just want to JB weld that damn thing on there. Yeah, that's an idea. Seems stupid though, but it'd be easier. Maybe I'll do that and put a 3/8 barb on that. It would be kind of a restricted power brake fitting though, so I don't know if that's bad brake performance. Be better if it was bigger. I went, took a beer break, New Year's Day and all. I looked up my previous video on the teardown discovery video. It was part 1 was like 2 months ago. My bad. So I guess we'll call this part 2. So I went and got a piece of 3/8 aluminum fuel line leftovers I had. Decided I was just going to make a 3/8 barb and just drill a hole. So that measured like 379, like 0.38, right there, 3/8. I grabbed a drill bit that measured like 370, but it jumped around a little bit. So I literally just ran the drill bit right over the little port nipple and just chewed it up with a drill bit and just kept going. And what I got, it's a pretty firm fit, but I'm just gonna like epoxy JB weld or whatever that in place, and I can just clamp a 3/8 vacuum port on the back of that, and that's my power brakes for Pontiac. So keep it simple, stupid, right? I ran across this old aviation type 3 sealant, gasket sealant shellac stuff, and this is just a vacuum port. I think I'll just slobber that in the hole and on that tubing, and we'll just stick that in there. I'm sure it'll be fine. It actually gets tight when you put it in all the way, and that stuff's on there. Made a nice little bead on top. That's gonna work fine. I kind of gave it a little whack. It's gonna seal nice. Time has come to put the base plate on using the inside of the 2 holes pretty much on everything, and I never saw a reason to use the slower ratio for the accelerator pump. So stick that in first. Whole lot easier to put the plate on last, and then the long screws. A lot of people try to pull the top plate off while the base is on it and trying to fight the zigzag to get that out. And it's like, dude, just pull the bottom off first, and then it just comes off. Easy peasy, makes it easier to build. Cruising down the road. Hey dude, are you trying to show me up in front of my girl? Well, let me give you some of this. Wham! Oh yeah, that's it, the WOM engaged. Looking good other than the surface rust and general ugliness, but but will it run? Yeah, and I didn't even check the float setting. It looked a little low, but I just left it alone. Better low, little low than high, so it won't flood. Don't care right now, just saying it out loud. Could have measured it, but I didn't. Just out of the box, just threw it in there. Not worried about it. Hey, anyways, carb stud goes there, not doing that till install. Still need the vacuum connect here to here, and here to here, and fuel nut. Got the spring. This one was kind of dirty. I don't know, maybe I'll just rinse that one off. I got the new little nylon gasket. We can put that on. Went into my large inventory of parts and found a new Duralast long Quadrajet filter that does not have the check valve springy doodad in it that I always remove. So a lot of times you see these Quadrajet style long filters that go for the long inlets. They have the short filter for the short ones. Most of the ones you buy have a rubber gasket with a built-in spring and check ball thing. I guess it's supposed to help with drain back fuel not draining back down the fuel line. But all I can tell you is, what the hell's the point of having a 4-barrel carburetor if you have a restricted air fuel filter that's a wide open throttle fuel restriction? And it will starve out. It will not perform with that check valve spring in the filter. So if you use your 4-barrel, because why else have one, I always would take those other filters and pull the spring, and the gasket you still reuse, but you just yank it out. It's like a sleeve, and you'd pull the spring and little check ball out of it and put it back in. And then that gets rid of that wide open throttle fuel restriction. It's basically simulating a dirty filter, essentially. But if you have a clean filter without that stupid check ball thing in it, it'll support. As soon as it starts getting discolored and dirty, you'll start starving on fuel. So a lot of guys will just run the inline fuel filter. But if I'm building on the bench, who knows when I'm going to put this on the car, sooner or later, forget about it. I'm going to put a clean new filter in it just so it has some protection. It can always be yanked out later. Better to not let stuff in than to let stuff in. Duh. I'm going to take a picture of this just to remind myself to buy some more of whatever brand, and not necessarily Duralast, but anyway, that was a little fuel filter tech. It sticks out about that far. You put it in, and of course you're gonna, not put it in that way because the fuel's on the other side. You thought I wasn't doing it right, huh? But yeah, so make sure the fuel hole is forward where the line goes in. Common sense. Don't do stuff drunk. I know some of y'all might do, but don't mess up your own stuff. Little spring goes on the back, puts tension. You'll feel it when you tighten the nut up. And I'm just spraying more lube because it was all dry. It went together really nice. Little tension on it. Threads are clean. Just gave it a good squeeze. Won't really torque that till it's bolted in the car. There's a vacuum port missing here. I probably should replace or put a screw in the hole, because I usually block that one anyway, because all I care about is the vacuum pull off. This is probably transmission modulator. That's PCV. That could also be used for transmission. Usually I tee off this back one for manifold vacuum distributor and the choke pull off. So I'll probably just T-branch off the back of that. So I'll probably put a screw in here. That'll probably be blocked. This will be used, and that may be used. or not. We'll see. But yeah, 1-inch wrench fits that. 5/8 for the fuel nut for the front. Something I always save pieces of flare nut fittings. Always have you a tubing, little mini tubing bender. Even if you go to the junkyard, you could score yourself a bunch of these. Like say you want fuel supply on this side. This may not be the fuel one. This might be the weird big one. Yeah, that's not a fuel one. That's power steering. I kept it, but it's a size I'll not likely use. But yeah, they do sell 90-degree swivel inverted flare is what it is. 3/8 hole, 5/8 hex nut. But get you a little tubing cutter, man. You could always get you some in the wrecking yard and cut you off some nice stubs. It's always nice to have some in the toolbox anyway. So we'll try this out soon, maybe later this week. I think we're gonna try that carburetor out here on the Le Mans on the stock 350 that I swapped this Quadrajet on a while back. This was a 72 Pontiac unit that I got a good deal on a while back, but I never did get a correct 4-barrel bracket or cable to get it connected, as you can see by the way that it is. That would have broke eventually when the heat got to that tire wrap. This thing's got a bad vacuum pull-off here anyway, so this one's been having some bog stuff, and it's not ideal. And I want to change up the combo in this one. This one had the original jet metering combo on the primary that was a little different than what I would usually run in one of these earlier carbs. So I figured it's a good opportunity to try to get a new vacuum can on it and reset the primary on this one. So I don't know if I got enough vacuum lines to connect everything to drive it, but maybe we can fire it up here in a little bit with the one I just built and basically just see how it runs. If it idles good, doesn't flood out, and so forth. And then I ordered a bracket, 4-barrel bracket, probably here this weekend, and go back and try to get the cable and bracket stuff sorted out properly. But yeah, I'll probably pull this off. And then I got to pick which air filter I want to run. I've been running that little low profile louvered 67 and older style air cleaner, but probably go back to drop base Moroso. I got a couple of those where I could use that OEM GM looking top in that right lower corner there. And I got a couple mid drop bases as well, because I got that Buick linkage on that other carburetor, could hit the extra deep Moroso, but we'll sort it out. Well, got the 78 Buick carburetor bolted on, and grabbed one of those swivel 90s off my other carb I had apart that I'm changing some stuff on. Got a much more presentable single black zip tie instead of a welding wire and a green zip tie combo. Did some reuse and some new clipped screws, nuts and bolts, and an extra bolt. Jammed up all the vacuum leaks. Everything's hooked up back here, which is distributor slash firewall heater stuff. About ready to fire it up. Well, briefly started it. Pump shot worked enough to fire it off. It didn't boil over with gas, but it dies right away because it is lean. It is kind of cold out, so going to possibly engage chokeage just slightly. Well, without the camera, it's basically pump it, works, fires up. Even with the choke partially engaged, it's acting like it's not getting enrichment off the primary jets, which is a little weird. So I think for the time being, I will probably put this back for now. Maybe. Yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and put this back on, but I'm going to wait till the weekend. Maybe do it Saturday. And then this is very hard to find. 71, 72 Pontiac vacuum pull-off. This one, I don't remember if it was bad when I built it. I have to go back and look, but it's bad. So I'm not going to recalibrate or change anything on this. This thing's actually been working great. It just needs this replaced. So I'm going to be putting this back on. Found one of these just a second ago on eBay from the parts place, Restoration Parts. And it's listed 71, 72 Pontiac only. And it's all metal. That's the one. So it's 25 bucks. I ordered it. Should get here in a day or two. So we're going to put that on. This one's, I'm not upset about it or anything. Actually, I'm just kind of glad to get it back together and get some fuel in it. And then we'll fiddle around with it later. Maybe we'll try it on the Start Chief next time before we take a look back at the systems in it. Just try to figure out some things. I think it's good just to get some gas in it for now. Thanks for watching. We'll follow up, a little update, maybe a short reel on this later when I get the new pull off and the corrected throttle bracket on there. That'll all be here in the next couple days. So thanks for watching. It's continuous improvement. That's all we're looking for.